I learned more about personal finance after I graduated with my finance degree than when I was pursuing and getting my finance degree. Finance is hard. Don't let anyone make you think that learning about these things, being involved, trying to change your life financially is something that's easy. It takes real work. I remember I was in like my junior year of finance and I was taking an investments and markets class. And the idea of puts, calls, all the option stuff, I just remember being like, what? And it's crazy now, years later, how many people are like trading options. The idea of that today is absolutely crazy for a concept that was just so insane to me. If you've ever just felt lost in this stuff, same. Here's what school taught me and what it did not. I decided to go and pursue my degree in finance. When I started that degree program, what I realized is that I knew nothing. I think I was more caught off guard by how much I didn't know, like all the nuances of finance, or as my professors would like to say, finance. There's personal finance, corporate finance, business finance. But I even felt slightly out of place being in my program. I was the only Black woman in my program at the time that I was there, which was not necessarily uncommon given that I went to a private Christian institution. What was even crazier was the things that were assumed of the students when they came into the school. I think this idea of what your parents should have taught you about personal finance, about taxes, and understanding business was a level of assumption that I just did not meet going into my finance program. I didn't realize that that was going to be something that I had to carry on top of just being a student. Everything had such real stakes, like the projects and the things that we were doing when I was in college. Some of these projects we were doing for actual businesses. These were real, legit, but I think it really just honed in on the work that we were actually doing. It didn't feel just like, oh, you're learning this concept, make sure you pass the class. There was just a whole nother level of focus that I needed to pass these classes, to learn these concepts. Made me realize that my level of focus that I had before was nothing compared to what was coming. It was something that I definitely struggled with very, very early on. If there was any class that you were to take in school, or if you're deciding to go into a finance program, business finance is probably one of the best. And obviously, in college, everything depends on the professors that you have. All in all, what I learned in school had nothing to do with my personal opinions, upbringing, but it had everything to do with showing me how much more I needed to learn to be able to get through this level of how to maneuver where you lack and get up to speed here. But also, some things are not about your effort. Some things are about your experience, resourcefulness, how you can tackle problems, and how you can make sense of them in the language of finance. Nothing about my personal finance life changed much until I got my first internship and I actually started dealing with money on my own. Let's get into what I learned after graduating. I feel like school just revealed to me all of the personal gaps that I was lacking in certain areas. I did not grow up in a household where a lot of these concepts were taught at the level that they were taught to maybe my peers when I was in school. Understanding these things at that level was something that I had to learn how to navigate. Going to school helped make those categories much more clear. For me, that was the concept of saving and inflation. It's like one thing for somebody to tell you, you need to save your money, stop spending it all. When you realize, hey, saving is super important because you want to be able to weather situations. You want to be prepared. You want to be able to combat inflation, which just means things get more expensive over time. You're going to need more money to keep up with that. It's like all of those things where I'm like, this makes so much sense. Why didn't I buy a house in the 2008 crash? I was only 10, but had I known, mind you, these are things that we should have been learning in school. So, and some of us may have. I did not. I made it my mission to be more educated. I didn't want to be the person that didn't know. Remember, I told you, I feel like 2020 was like my origin story for changing my life financially. When I went back to a place that felt like I had somewhat outgrown, I was like, well, I got to keep growing so that I can figure out how to move, be different, take the things that I realized about myself after graduation and apply them in this situation. And I'm going to tell you, the first book that really changed everything for me after graduating was Clever Girl Finance, Ditching Debt, Saving. Bola Sokunbi, you are the holy grail, girl. You really took me out of myself and you helped me to see personal finance in a way that it just made so much sense. I started consuming a whole lot of content after I read that book. You got all of these great finance creators that exist today. Some of my favorites were like The Budgetnista, His and Hers Money, Bola Sokunbi. There's only so much that someone can give you with how they do the things that they do. It's not a blame thing, they shoulda thing. It's just where people are, they can only give you where they are. And my parents, they watch a lot of Dave Ramsey, which I feel like is probably the first introduction to finance in my life. I remember them listening to that a lot growing up. I'm not necessarily someone who follows Dave Ramsey's methods today. My mom, she used to like give us these colorful envelopes and she'd put save, invest, tithe, all these different things. And I think that's what carried me into even wanting to pursue finance in the first place. Where I was then two completely different people. Lastly, just some of the things to remember. I know that trusting ourselves can feel so scary. I mean, it was for me. Recovering people pleaser. Being in school and also post grad, it taught me how to go where I think I need to go. I would also say your personal study habits. You can get something, it can go in one ear, out the other. Boo, 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 boo. Babes, if you don't get down there and highlight what you need to highlight, and you can start applying that stuff, it's just like going to therapy. You don't go to therapy and listen to what the therapist has to say, and then that's just it. That's not how you change and grow and evolve as a person. You learn, you annotate, you make it a part of your life, you create new habits, and you move forward and you apply. Books are the cheat code. The day we living in. And books still exist. Free, by the way, because we have libraries, and libraries have digital libraries that you can access from your freaking phone. If you don't know where to start, if you don't have the money for school, if you don't have any money, when there is nothing else, no Wi-Fi, just pick any finance book. I swear, there's really not one that I'm like, don't do that. Okay? Next book, next caller. Honest take, should you go to school for finance? I think it just depends on a few things. I don't think you need to go to school for personal finance. If you feel like you have that great foundation of things, maybe you grew up with parents, had great money habits and taught you lots of things, I wouldn't say you need to go to school for finance to have a great personal finance life. I don't. Anything that you can go to school for and learn more about can be eye-opening. All of that just depends on where you are and what you feel you want to know more about. I don't regret going to school to get my finance degree because I believe it's still something for me, my personal career, that has stayed being the thing that's opened doors for me. It doesn't hurt. I actually feel like going to get your finance degree, once you've lived a little bit, feels a little bit of a better choice because the concepts and the ideas of things that I learned in school, man, I wish I was learning them now. I would have been more equipped to receive that information and apply it in my day-to-day. But also I can't really say because I feel like that experience is what thrusted me into what I am today and how I'm moving. And I don't regret any of that.